What if I told you that deep within the shadows of World War II, hidden from every history book and erased from every official record, there was a secret pact, one not between nations, but with something not of this world. A deal so classified, so dangerous, that it could change everything we thought we knew about the war. What horrors were unleashed in silence? And what price did humanity pay for this forbidden alliance? Tonight, we open a box best left sealed. In the final days of World War II, as Berlin burned and Allied forces closed in on Hitler's shattered empire, deep beneath the mountains of Obersalzberg, a different war was being waged, not for territory or ideology, but for time itself. Officially, the facility at Berg Complex 12 did not exist. Buried over 300 meters beneath a defunct copper mine, it was protected by a labyrinth of sealed tunnels and SS loyalists. Here, under the codename Operation Enoch, the Reich's most brilliant and most unhinged physicists worked on something so dangerous, even many in Hitler's inner circle refused to speak of it aloud. In 1943, after the disaster of Stalingrad, the Nazi High Command grew desperate for a miracle. Heinrich Himmler, obsessed with ancient texts and occult lore, greenlit a project proposed by physicist Dr. Otto Wehner, the construction of a device capable of piercing the fabric of time. Drawing from Einstein's unpublished notes and theories stolen from Jewish scientists across Europe, Wehner believed it was possible to create what he called a chronoton engine. According to the files recovered decades later, the machine was powered by a rare, unstable element mined in Czechoslovakia. The chronoton engine's core was housed within a spherical chamber suspended by magnetic fields, a black, humming orb constantly shifting in shape and density, as if alive. Its purpose: to open a temporal rift large enough to send a man, or data, backward in time. The plan was bold. Hitler himself believed in destiny, but after 1944's failed assassination attempt, he began to fear that the Reich had diverged from its true path. Operation Enoch was to be his answer, not merely to win the war, but to rewrite it entirely. Intelligence gathered after the war suggested that the Führer ordered the engine to be activated no later than March 1945. But the project was not without its setbacks. Survivor testimony, obtained under CIA Operation Paperclip, described eerie phenomena around the testing site. Watches stopped working. Soldiers reported dreams of events that hadn't happened yet, entire battles they couldn't have known about. One technician, a young Austrian named Emil Bauer, claimed to see his own corpse in a reflection before collapsing into catatonia. Then came the test. March 10, 1945. SS records indicate that a man known only as Agent Amsel was chosen for the first live trial. He carried with him a satchel of documents, battle plans, schematics, and a list of key individuals to eliminate in the past. His destination was 1918, the last year of the First World War, shortly before Hitler's rise to power. The device was activated at 3:19 a.m. And then, silence. An explosion did not occur. Nor did a collapse. The room simply emptied. Every object within a 5-meter radius of the core disappeared, including Agent Amsel. Power to the entire mountain complex failed for 13 minutes. When it returned, the chronoton engine was no longer operational. The orb had collapsed inward into a smooth black sphere, cold to the touch and utterly inert. 15 days later, the Allies reached Obersalzberg. Berg Complex 12 was never found, not immediately. It wasn't until 1967, during construction of an Austrian hydroelectric tunnel, that a bored drill shaft punched into the collapsed chamber. Inside, archaeologists found the strangest thing: a rusted military satchel, encased in resin and age, buried beneath nearly 20 meters of stone. Its contents, brittle documents, remarkably preserved. Yet none were from 1945. They bore watermarks and ink only available in the 1920s. Inside were Nazi insignia redesigns that had never existed, lists of generals who had never risen to prominence, and a letter, handwritten in a jagged, near-manic scrawl, addressed to Adolf Hitler. The events cannot be changed. The past resists. Do not attempt another jump. The loop is real. We always return to the fire. Historians initially dismissed the find as a hoax, but the handwriting matched known samples from SS officer Hans Amsel, a man listed as missing in action in March 1945, last seen entering the mountain bunker. No records place him in 1920s Germany. Yet one troubling detail emerged in the years that followed. In 1922, obscure reports began appearing in Munich police archives of a strange man disrupting political rallies, warning of the rise of a dangerous painter corporal named Hitler. Described as speaking with a strange accent and possessing mechanical parts embedded in his wrist, he was arrested, then vanished from the jail cell 2 nights later without explanation. More disturbing, a grainy photograph from 1923 shows the early Nazi party gathered in a beer hall. In the far left corner, barely visible, is a blurred figure in a coat and boots not manufactured until the 1940s. His features are obscured, but a forensic facial match to Hans Amsel shows a 76% probability. By 1994, after decades of suppression, the U.S. Defense Department released documents detailing a short-lived secret project, Chronosecurity Directive Alpha. It detailed concerns that temporal anomalies originating from the European theater could still affect national security. The documents referenced an event called the Munich Interference, the discovery of closed time loops, and a hypothetical threat dubbed the Enoch Paradox. The notion that any attempt to alter the past would only reinforce the current timeline, sealing the fates of all involved. In other words, Amsel didn't change the past. He made it inevitable. Today, the ruins of Berg Complex 12 are sealed off by the Austrian government under the pretext of environmental instability. The inert black orb is held in a secret facility in New Mexico, under constant surveillance. It has never reactivated, but it still hums faintly at 3:19 a.m. each March 10th. In the bitter cold of January 1952, a U.S. Navy expedition known as Task Force 47 vanished without a trace in the remote wastes of Antarctica. Officially, they were conducting weather research and seismic mapping. Unofficially, they were searching for something else, something older than the war, and more dangerous than any weapon dropped during it. In 1945, as the Allies closed in on Berlin, intelligence from captured U-boats suggested an alarming exodus of high-ranking Nazi officials. Dozens of submarines, unaccounted for by any fleet, had left from Norway and the French Atlantic ports. None were ever found, but some believed they were heading south, to the bottom of the world. This was not pure fantasy. The Third Reich had long shown an unusual obsession with Antarctica. In 1938, under the cover of the Schwabenland expedition, German planes dropped aluminum markers across vast stretches of Queen Maud Land, claiming it for the Führer. They named it New Schwabenland and built primitive outposts, scientific, they claimed. But years later, those same markers were found again. Identical ones, but with serial numbers 20 years older than the 1938 drops. The documentary's heart rests on the testimony of Lieutenant David Rollins, an aviator aboard the USS Maddox during the 1952 expedition. His crew was ordered to conduct reconnaissance over an ice shelf near the South Pole. What they found was impossible, a geometrically perfect hexagonal structure protruding from beneath the ice, pulsing with a faint blue glow. The craft's instruments went haywire. The temperature inside the cockpit spiked, despite the sub-zero exterior. One of the gunners began speaking fluent German, though he had never studied the language in his life. They turned back. Hours later, the Maddox exploded. Officially, the Navy blamed a fuel leak. Rollins was sent home under medical discharge and spent the next 30 years drawing diagrams of spinning disks, of underground facilities powered by volcanic vents, and most hauntingly, of swastikas carved into the ice, illuminated by a strange green flame. In 1984, Soviet defectors confirmed that the KGB had long believed in the existence of Base 211, a secret Nazi fortress in Antarctica allegedly powered by geothermal energy and shielded from satellite detection. According to their files, the Nazis had moved critical assets there in early 1945, including aircraft prototypes, gold, and scientists working on advanced propulsion systems that defied conventional Newtonian motion. Some of the documents suggest that Die Glock, the bell, a rumored anti-gravity device developed in Poland, was seen being loaded onto U-530 before its mysterious departure. That same submarine was found months later, floating empty near Argentina, its crew never located. But the story takes an even stranger turn in 2003, when satellite imaging revealed a circular depression, over 2 kilometers wide, near the South Pole, precisely where Rawlins' map had indicated. Officials dismissed it as subglacial topography, yet when amateur explorers attempted to approach the area via ice routes in 2006, their GPS systems failed within 30 miles. They turned back. Not everyone was so lucky. In 2009, a Chilean research team transmitted a short emergency signal from near the same coordinates. The final message, heavily garbled, included the words "Lichtat unter dem Eis," light city under the ice. They were never heard from again. What did the Nazis build so far from the world? And more importantly, why? Some theorists believe the Nazis chose Antarctica because of its isolation and unique electromagnetic properties. Old SS documents recovered in 1991 detail a theory of polar convergence, in which Earth's magnetic field is weakest at the poles, allowing access to what they called Die Spiegel dimension, or the mirror realm. Whether metaphor or madness, the Nazis poured millions into the project. More recent theories go further. A 2011 geophysical scan showed a massive void, nearly the size of Manhattan, beneath the ice shelf near Queen Maud Land. It wasn't a cave. It had right angles, artificial shapes, and heat, enough to sustain life, machinery, or something else. Researchers interviewed in this documentary describe classified testimonies from former CIA agents who claimed that the U.S. government has maintained satellite surveillance on the region for decades. One cryptic document refers to the location as Zeus Black Site 8, noting only that all incursions must be terminated preemptively to preserve global psychological stability. But even the most skeptical voice in the film, a glaciologist from Oslo, admits that the region holds secrets we are not meant to uncover. One final mystery remains. In 2015, a small crew from a privately funded expedition recorded what they described as a humming coming from beneath the ice. The frequency, 17.42 Hz, below human hearing, but dangerously close to the so-called fear frequency, known to induce anxiety, panic, and hallucinations. The team recorded 6 minutes of footage before their camera froze. The last frame, before static took over, shows what appears to be a metallic structure, round, reflective, and hovering slightly above the ice. Behind it, an emblem, an eagle holding a lightning bolt, wreathed in frost. Is the Nazi dream of the 1,000-year Reich still echoing beneath the ice? Did some part of it, protected from time, evolve into something unrecognizable? As one whisper in the documentary says, translated from intercepted German radio chatter in 1962, "The war is not over. Only the world forgot." It was July 6, 1942. An RAF bomber returning from a nighttime training exercise off the coast of Kent reported a strange, glowing object pacing its wingtip. At first, the pilot thought it was an experimental German aircraft, perhaps one of the rumored Foo Fighters. But as the object accelerated vertically at impossible speed, without sound or contrail, something else became clear. This was not man-made. That night, Air Marshal Victor Wakefield filed an urgent report, classified beyond top secret, and sent directly to Prime Minister Winston Churchill. What followed became known to a handful of insiders as Directive Hermes, an ultra-classified program hidden beneath the War Cabinet's normal operations, existing at the crossroads of science, intelligence, and something far stranger. This documentary begins with a leaked MI6 memo declassified in 1998, which confirmed that Churchill personally ordered a cover-up of an unidentified flying machine witnessed by both RAF personnel and U.S. generals. He argued that the public, already reeling from bombings and the loss of life, must not be made aware of higher intelligences, fearing a collapse in morale and religion. But behind the scenes, he did more than suppress. He engaged. Documents retrieved from the now-defunct Special Projects Office in Suffolk reveal that a second sighting occurred 2 weeks later, this time near Stonehenge. An object roughly 50 feet wide landed briefly in the center of the ancient circle. A team of operatives, including physicist Alan Turing, arrived within hours. The craft was gone, but the site radiated energy. Magnetic compasses spun. Watches melted. The grass had been scorched, but only in complex, concentric spirals. Turing, already pivotal to the code-breaking effort at Bletchley Park, wrote in a personal letter to a confidant, "We are no longer merely observers of a war between nations. We are insects arguing over mud while something vast watches from above." But the documentary's most shocking claim comes from an interview with a now-deceased intelligence officer under codename Mercury. His voice, distorted and identity hidden, tells of a meeting that took place on November 3, 1942, in a remote Scottish airfield. There, Churchill and a select group of scientists witnessed the landing of what was dubbed Entity Theta II. The being was described as neither mechanical nor biological, but somewhere in between. Its body shimmered like liquid mercury, constantly shifting in shape. Communication was not verbal. It spoke into their minds. The offer was simple: assistance. In return, the entity requested access to Earth's oceans and its genetic catalog. Churchill was resistant. But after the fall of Tobruk and mounting casualties, the tide of desperation turned. By January 1943, British radar systems inexplicably improved. A new sonar prototype began detecting U-boats at twice the previous range. Cryptographers at Bletchley Park suddenly made breakthroughs that gave the Allies a decisive edge. Turing, in his later writings, referred to an external pattern influencing his logic algorithms. His colleagues dismissed it as metaphor. But one journal, dated April 1943, reads, "The waveform arrived again last night. Dreams of spirals and light. I believe it thinks through me. But gifts never come free." In mid-1944, over 300 infants in a Welsh countryside hospital were reported to have suffered unexplained genetic abnormalities. Internal documents reveal MI6 agents removing tissue samples, and patients were relocated to an undisclosed facility in northern Canada. Rumors of aquatic tendencies and extreme photosensitivity emerged. No official explanation was given. The facility burned down in 1951. Even more disturbing is what the documentary reveals about the war's end. Some historians have long questioned Hitler's final days. Eyewitnesses were unreliable. The body burned beyond identification. Soviet reports suggested discrepancies. But Mercury tells a different story. According to recovered transcripts, Churchill allegedly shared temporal frequency patterns with Soviet operatives, data derived from Entity Theta II, that allowed Allied scientists to track and neutralize Nazi leadership through biological resonance. In layman's terms, death by vibration. If true, Hitler's death was not suicide. It was orchestration. As the war ended, Churchill ordered all evidence of the Pact destroyed or hidden beneath layers of bureaucracy. Directive Hermes became the foundation for post-war intelligence alliances, code-named Umbra. Any sightings of craft were immediately silenced, ridiculed, or reclassified as Soviet experiments. And yet, traces remained. In 1961, an RAF radar technician reported a recurring blip over the Orkney Islands. When filtered through specific frequencies, the signal formed a pattern, a triangle, intersected by a spiral, identical to one drawn by Turing in 1943. More chilling is a recording played in the final segment of the film, a 1955 wiretap on a conversation between Churchill and President Eisenhower. Churchill says, "The sky was never ours, Dwight. We leased it for the war. The bill may come due yet." Eisenhower replies, "Then let's pray they still find us useful." Despite decades of denial, growing declassifications from the UK and US hint that something extraordinary happened during World War II. Something buried not just by the fog of war, but by deliberate design. The final scene of the documentary shows an image taken in 2012, a spiral of burned grass in the exact center of Stonehenge. No fires were reported. No human tracks found. But the magnetic field in the area remains anomalous. And a faint signal still pulses beneath the noise floor, exactly 80 years since the first visit. Hidden in the murky depths of Japanese Imperial archives lies the tale of Unit 9K, a secret branch of the notorious Biological Warfare Division Unit 731, one so horrifying that even post-war tribunals refused to speak of it. Operating in the shadows of Manchuria from 1939 to 1945, Unit 9K pursued a singular objective: to engineer the perfect soldier by blending human DNA with traits harvested from insects and amphibians. Where Unit 731 dealt in plague bombs and frostbite tests, 9K delved into something far more grotesque: genetic grafting, using crude recombinant techniques decades ahead of their time. The unit's lead scientist, Dr. Shunichi Kuroda, believed evolution could be hijacked. Drawing from Shinto mythology and German eugenics theories, he claimed the human body was a vessel waiting for correction. The facility, codenamed Nest Zero, was buried in the forests near the Korean border, camouflaged beneath a civilian agricultural research station. There were no maps, no witnesses. Only recently declassified reports from Soviet intelligence hinted at its existence, listing it as a biological anomaly zone where entire forests had withered and birds refused to fly. Captured Allied POWs, Koreans, and Chinese villagers were taken to Nest Zero under the guise of labor. What awaited them was monstrous. The documentary features sketches retrieved from a shredded 1945 notebook, a human torso fused with beetle carapace, a child with translucent, frog-like skin and no eyes, a man whose veins had hardened into exoskeletal ridges. Dr. Kuroda's obsession was a creature known as the Mokade Hito, the centipede man, a chimera designed to survive chemical warfare, high radiation, and starvation. According to eyewitnesses from the 731 trials, Kuroda believed he could create a battalion of these hyper-resilient beings, capable of crawling through jungle terrain undetected, immune to fire and gas, and loyal only to encoded pheromonal commands. One man survived Nest Zero. A Chinese farmer named Huang Li, then a teenager, was abducted from his village in 1944. He escaped during a fire that destroyed part of the research facility, later interviewed by Soviet operatives. His words were scattered and surreal. The screaming came from under the ground. They were not men anymore. They shed their skins. One walked on all fours and whispered in Japanese with no mouth. He described soldiers with glazed, compound eyes. Some could cling to ceilings. One reached through metal bars by dislocating its own joints. The guards began wearing gas masks, not for poison, but because the smell made them forget who they were. When the fire broke out, either sabotage or containment breach, Kuroda ordered all test subjects destroyed. But some fought back. Records show a surge in radioactivity detected in the region that week, unexplained by conventional sources. In 1946, Soviet troops entered the area after Japan's surrender. The footage, buried for 70 years, was discovered in 2018 in a mislabeled crate in Vladivostok. It showed the remains of Nest Zero, twisted steel, shattered concrete, and an enormous underground chamber lined with honeycomb-like pods. The pods had been ruptured from the inside. Even stranger, the walls were covered in organic growth, keratinous filaments resembling insect antennae, fused with cables. In the footage's final frame, a body lies on an autopsy table. It's humanoid, but with 6 segmented limbs folded under its ribcage. No eyes. Its mouth sealed shut with translucent skin. A tag reads, "Specimen 14, survived 73 minutes outside chamber." Where did they go? Throughout the 1950s, villages near the old facility reported livestock mutilations, children vanishing into the woods, and strange clicking sounds heard near rivers at night. Japanese officials blamed wolves and post-war trauma. But an unmarked, barbed wire perimeter was established around a 20-mile radius. Armed guards rotated every 2 weeks. No official reason was given. The documentary features an intercepted CIA cable dated March 12, 1957, referring to possible Type 9K lifeform crossing into southern Korea. Request satellite sweep. Recommend incineration protocol if confirmed. But no public action was ever taken. In 1989, a Japanese urban explorer found a sealed tunnel entrance hidden beneath a rusted grain silo near the site. Inside, he recorded flickering lights still powered by geothermal energy. On the wall, a preserved mural of a soldier standing beside an enormous moth. Beneath it, characters read, "He will outlive the Emperor." He fled after hearing movement in the vents. His footage ends with a hiss, and then silence. Today, the Japanese government denies the existence of Unit 9K. The official records list no such division. But testimonies from declassified Soviet files, American field notes, and Chinese intelligence all point to something deeply buried, both literally and figuratively. The final note in the documentary is the most chilling. In 2005, during a landslide near the old Manchurian border, construction workers uncovered a sealed crate containing vials and blueprints marked Project Succession. Among them was a warning, handwritten in perfect English. "Do not awaken the swarm. They remember what we did to them." In late August 1945, mere days after the formal Japanese surrender, the Allies initiated a top-secret naval operation in the Indian Ocean, known only to a few within the highest echelons of the US and British military commands. Code-named Operation Mirror, it was publicly presented as a post-war maneuver to sweep for remaining German U-boats suspected of hiding in Southeast Asia. But in truth, it was an experiment in weaponized perception. The core of Operation Mirror was a device referred to in internal documents as the harmonizer. Developed in partnership with British and American physicists, including remnants of Nikola Tesla's earlier projects, the device was designed to project low-frequency, high-amplitude sound waves combined with modulated light pulses. The goal? To disorient enemy sensors and perception, possibly even trigger temporary hallucinations across enemy fleets. But the project's ambitions, like so many in wartime, veered into far stranger territory. The documentary begins with the manifest of the USS Kessler, one of 6 ships in the task group. The logs note calm seas, clear weather, and full systems operational. The last transmission from the fleet was sent at 0142 hours on August 27, 1945, initiating Phase 3. Standing by. After that, silence. For nearly 5 days, no contact was made with the fleet. Then, out of the blue, a single ship, the HMS Ardenlight, drifted back into known waters near Sri Lanka, empty of crew, its decks pristine, its engines cold. The clocks aboard were frozen at 3:13. Not a single soul was found. And yet, the radios continued broadcasting. Faint and scratchy at first, then clearer. A repeating message, "We are still here. But the sea is wrong." The ship's interior showed signs of impossible aging. Wooden surfaces were warped, as if time had accelerated. Paint had blistered into strange, fractal patterns resembling coral reefs. Even stranger, its compass spun non-stop, unable to find magnetic north. In the galley, meals were half-eaten, still warm. But no fingerprints. No DNA. No blood. No struggle. The fleet was declared lost. But that was just the beginning. Over the following decades, ghost sightings of ships matching the exact profiles of those involved in Operation Mirror surfaced across the globe. In 1964, a Soviet submarine detected an unmarked destroyer matching the USS Kessler's dimensions off the coast of Madagascar, only for it to vanish from sonar within seconds. In 1979, a British oil rig in the Arabian Sea recorded a radar contact hovering above the water. Massive, silent, shaped like a World War II battleship. It blinked in and out of existence, rotating in place before dissolving in a blue flash. Most chilling was the testimony of French fisherman Marcel Brousseau in 1982. His trawler, the Alouette, encountered thick fog and radar jamming near the Chagos archipelago. Emerging from the mist, he saw a convoy of 6 ships, utterly silent, lights dim, crews standing at attention, but unmoving. "Their eyes were wrong," he said. "They stared, but they didn't see us. Like they were dreaming." The camera he used to record them developed only static. His compass needle was melted. Researchers believe the harmonizer, meant to manipulate human perception, may have torn something else, a fracture in the fabric of time, or between parallel dimensions. One physicist, Dr. Irene Voss, proposed the standing wave hypothesis. that the fleet became trapped in a self-sustaining resonance bubble, existing in a slippage between this world and another. Not dead. Not alive. Simply caught. One unconfirmed CIA report from 1993 referenced a zone of mirror reflection in the Indian Ocean, where electromagnetic anomalies remained constant. It noted that satellites flying over the region sometimes sent back double images. 2 oceans, 2 moons, same coordinates. Perhaps the most disturbing piece of evidence came in 2001, when a diving team near the Maldives discovered a pressure-sealed crate buried deep within a coral shelf. Inside were photographs, black and white, of sailors from the USS Kessler. But they were wrong. Their uniforms were pristine, their expressions blank. And in each frame, the sky appeared not blue, but black, dotted with unfamiliar constellations. Behind them stood officers with mirrored helmets, faces unreadable, insignia worn backward. As if taken in a world flipped. One final message, intercepted by an NSA listening post in Diego Garcia in 2007, chilled even hardened analysts. Transmitted on a long-dead frequency used only by the Lost Fleet, it was a single sentence repeated over and over in a synthetic voice. "We are in reflection. You are the echo. Do not retrieve us." All attempts to triangulate the source failed. But the signal grew stronger during solar eclipses, especially near the equator. To this day, ships that cross a specific band in the southern Indian Ocean report sudden fog, compass failure, and phantom radar contacts. Maritime authorities dismiss these as navigation anomalies. But among sailors, the legend persists. They call it the Ghost Fleet. And in the dead of night, on calm waters, they say you can still hear the footsteps of sailors long vanished, marching across unseen decks, looking for a way home. What you've just uncovered is only the surface of a deeper darkness, secrets deliberately buried, truths too dangerous to face. History's shadows hide alliances, experiments, and betrayals that could rewrite everything we thought we knew. But some doors, once opened, can never be closed. Ask yourself, how far would those in power go to keep these horrors hidden? The real question is, are you ready to see what lies beyond the veil? Because this box was never meant to be opened.